Welcome to the Cannabis Enlightened Podcast with Dr. Leroy, brought to you by March and Ash at marchandash.com. I'm Chris Cantori, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to your host, Dr. Leroy. For those not familiar, here's a little bit about him.
My name is Leroy Brady. I'm a PhD. I teach business at San Diego City College. I've been doing that for 21 years. I'm teaching a course called The Business of Cannabis. I guess part of what I'm doing now in working in this space is going back to that and helping to educate people so that they realize that cannabis is not just getting high. It's not just THC. Cannabis enlightenment is going to be different. It's going to be more than cultivation and to the dispensary. It is going to be bringing cannabis home to the individual so that you know that cannabis and what comes from cannabis can aid us in our health today and in the future.
Now, in this episode, Dr. Leroy talks to Rose Lamuraglia, Dean at San Diego Community College, and together they've been involved in developing and hosting the Business of Cannabis course, as they recounted success and popularity with the students and local business community, including March and Ash. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon, Rose. How are you doing?
I'm well. Yourself? How are you?
I'm doing well, doing very well. Listen, we're going to be talking this afternoon about the business of cannabis. And everyone's aware of the fact, or they will be aware shortly, that I've been teaching this for, maybe 2 or 3 years now, the business of cannabis. However, what dawned on to me was the fact that before we start talking to people about the business of cannabis and what the class is about and all the wonderful things that have happened in the class and from the class, I felt like it was a better idea to go to the very beginning. Okay. So this is kind of like one of the Steven Spielberg movies where it started in the middle and now we're going to the beginning so that we can find out how this came about. So you are the architect. You wrote the curriculum for this. And as I turn it over to you and you introduce yourself, your full name, most of your friends, most of the people that know you refer to you as Rose. And once you tell them your last name, they will understand why we all refer to you as Rose, your first name. But when I turn it over to you, would you talk about what was the reason? What thought came to your mind that you should write this curriculum concerning the business of cannabis?
So let me clarify some points and let me talk about that, because when we talk about writing the curriculum and the idea, that's two different things altogether. So let's start with 2016 and 2015. There was a movement in California that with Proposition 64, there have been prior things, where there were things to where people were trying to make cannabis to be legal for recreational use, okay? I mean, there's different propositions that happened before that. We had, there was something in 2010 and something before that. However, we know that it was already legal for medicinal use, right?
Okay.
So I was at, and I went back to my calendar because, I have this, one of my problems is the memory. And I'll talk about my last name later because I don't want to get that in the middle of this.
I wanted people to know you. I wanted them to know who you are and what you're all about as you start talking about the class.
Well, let's go in the beginning. My name is Rose. My last name is Lamuraglia. It has a G, but the G is silent, okay? I'm an IT person by trade. By education, I study mathematics. I'm a number person. And I like to study trends over time. That's my flaw. I like to see things and see how they evolve. It's been my flaw or my asset. I like to see how stuff evolves it's something of interest to me. With that said, an IT person that likes to see things how they evolve. There was a time in my career where I used to teach IT, and that's where our partnership began a long time ago. And IT people, we don't tend to imagine an IT person that is a mathematics person. That is the intersection of crazy. So yeah, you understand what I'm talking about. So I came to you and I told you, Dr. Brady, I have discovered the ultimate thing. IT people, and the really good IT people, have to be horrible people when it comes to people. And you said yes, and you look at me in the eye, so you know what you meant, right? I think you were talking about me. So when it came down to that, I said, they cannot communicate. They're horrible communicators. They don't know how to write. They're just horrible at it. Because I discovered that they were doing horrible presentations. So that is the beginning of your partnership with me, getting into combining business and IT as a possible solution to getting my students employed. Because I discovered that my poor kids were really good when it came down to IT work. And then when it was time to do an interview, they were horrible. So you helped me out. I was able to get even money. I got $1 million out of the feds to get our people getting. So when they went to answer a phone, they didn't say yo, they say hello. That was a huge accomplishment. So thank you, Dr. Brady. They knew about all of that other, alphabet soup, but they knew how to say hello. With that
Well, let's just set the record straight here, Rose, that the things that I said about IT people maybe not being people, that didn't have as much to do with you as it did with a lot of other IT people that I've spoken to. You just don't have time for people that aren't very smart, that are, can I use the S word? People that are stupid.
I know you're special. My new word that I have now used for the past, I don't know, several years is special.
Special, yes.
They don't know if I'm calling them the smart or the stupid or the worst. So let's use special.
Okay, special. But you like people. I've come to find out that you like people. You like people. Some people, okay. You like people that are hardworking. Yes. People. If they're lazy, you have no time for them.
I like people who have an open mind.
Okay, open mind. Yes. Okay.
This takes us to the conversation. So what happened was I was at a conference, and after the conference, and I went back to my calendar, and believe it or not, I actually thought I was dating this to 2006, and I wasn't. It was 2005, and I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with some colleagues, and it was something non-related to the college, but it was with some friends that had to do with a business thing that I was doing, and it was school related, my school. And we were talking about the legalization of cannabis. And I said, it was something like a joke, perhaps. And I said, everybody is so focused into the how this would be just about planting, selling, and then manufacturing something. And they don't see that this transcends so much more than that. And the person that was with me, which is very much into the box, this is the box, said, but that's all there is about cannabis. I said, excuse me. I mean, have you seen some of the stuff that it appears in some of these places which I've seen online? I mean, you see the little flower looking thing, and that's all there is. I mean, could they have some graphic designers make up something nice so it could sell better? Or could you see something that it would be perhaps produced with a better looking, perhaps, I don't know, some kind of a better look and feel in their websites, or something that it would be perhaps better marketed, Or, imagine when it goes legal, how are they going to need perhaps some accountants that they could actually manage their money? Because I'm assuming the money right now is under the mattress. It was just a joke, okay? And
So Rose, tell me, when you made that statement to your friend, how much knowledge did you have about cannabis and the cannabis business or cannabis industry? How much knowledge did you have at that time?
I had some, not much, limited, let me tell you the truth. And the reason why I had some limited is this. I have a son that has Crohn's disease. And because of that, I have some. Crohn's disease is an ugly thing. And because it's an ugly thing, people with Crohn's disease either take a very expensive biologic or they take cannabis. And after he no longer qualified for my medical insurance, we either pay $3,000 a month on Humira and the like, or he took cannabis.
Okay, so let me bring the audience listening into this so that they know your son's name is David.
Yes.
David. Okay, nice guy. He's about 6'100", right? He's a very tall guy.
Something like that.
He's a very tall guy. Okay, and the Crohn's disease. What would you say to people that don't know about Crohn's disease? What happens to a person?
You and I know more than one person that has that illness. We're not going to out the others, okay? But sure. It could debilitate the person. David, at one point in time, he's almost 6'7". He was 125 pounds, okay? Now he's still 6'7". He's about 300 pounds. He eats and he doesn't expel everything he ate because he can keep it down. That's one of the effects of THC. You eat, you get hungry, you get the munchies. Well, he eats, he gets the munchies and he keeps it. So he doesn't have the issue with it.
So the cannabis has helped him consuming the cannabis in one way or another, either edible or smoking, helps him to be able to keep his weight up so that he's healthy.
It's an antiemetic. It works as an antiemetic. Maybe as a kid he liked the cannabis for recreational purposes, but it's becoming an issue of a need for him not to be sick. And I welcome it. I mean, I'm telling you this, I welcome it. I appreciate the fact that I don't have to pay for Humira, because when he no longer had insurance, guess who was paying for it?
His mother.
Yeah.
So is it fair for me to say that this actually saved his life?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of life saving, because he could have lived. But imagine the depression. You and I know the other person that has the disease, and this girl tried to commit suicide because these people see that a very severe case of Crohn's is debilitating and causes depression, because the person at a very young age finds themselves unable to perform a daily activity. So I've done research on.
So that right. So that it could be very detrimental to his health and to his life if he didn't find something to keep him
balanced.
Yes, keep him straight, keep him
I'm
eating.
not saying it is the cure of them all and everything, because there's still sometimes where things do not go 100%, but if things are okay, and I'm not going to tell anybody that this is for everybody, but I had done research, okay? I'm not going to tell you that I went into this like saying, oh, gee, I've never seen a joint in my life. And I would make this very clear, okay? I don't know if this is the place and time. Had I ever consumed it, I think, and I'll joke about this, and I've done this in public. Once in my life, I was 16 years old, and I did. And I had an allergic reaction to it, and I never did again, because I didn't want to die.
Okay.
And I never have again.
Rose, the fact that you talked about someone else had, got depressed and was thinking about suicide. How can you share with us how How depressed did David get?
He got stages of depression. To this day, he has depression, and he does take a medication for it, but it's not. And I don't want to out him on everything, but he does take some medicine for depression. It's not something as it is something that he's known every day, but he does take something.
So what's the value of the cannabis to him and his health?
Well, he has some weight gain. I mean, at least he doesn't look like a toothpick. He eats every day and he keeps it down. We don't have episodes where he is in the bathroom for 7 or 8 hours because this thing did a number on him of something he ate, had how do you want to call it, as an extreme adverse reaction. I mean, imagine this. Imagine Moctezuma's revenge every day. That's all I can say.
And all day long, isn't that correct?
For 7 hours, 8 hours.
7 hours, that's pretty much a day. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a day. So why would you want to live like that? That was a question that he asked me once. And, he had ups and downs. I mean, there was a time where it became worse than other times. So, that's what I had done research. And, with David, you sometimes had to wonder if he exaggerated a little or not. And when he started living with me 100%, I could tell that this was not a little.
So this is really personal with you. It's not just something that you did in terms of to be academic, to be new and fancy. This was something that's personal because it was affecting your son.
That is true. And then I started to think about this. I mean, and again, this is 2005. It had not become legal. And then I started to think about other stuff. And, we sometimes talk about opportunities for people. I have this weak spot about opportunities for people. We work in an institution, and for an institution, and I'm not talking about the college, I'm talking about an institution, academia, where everybody has to have a degree. And everybody should have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD. So, but not everybody is meant to have that. There are people who literally have no desire of getting one. There are some people who earn a bachelor's and a master's degree and would never, ever, ever work on that field. And I know some.
True.
Okay?
True.
Then you happen to have some people who are in that situation who are, some. So the question then becomes, you have that, but then you have people who have passion for certain things, and you saw that yourself in some of your cannabis classes.
Absolutely.
To my friend, and I'm not mentioning the name, I came to the hotel that night, and I said, that was actually a point. This industry, if it actually opens up, could have a liberating effect on people. Why? Because it could be, think about it, it could be an industry on top of an industry.
Now, that's a great place for us to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll have more with our guest and Dr. Leroy. You're listening to the Cannabis Enlightened Podcast, powered by March and Ash. March and Ash is San Diego's premier cannabis dispensary network. Online at marchandash.com, with locations in Mission Valley, City Heights, Vista, Imperial County, and in South Bay, Chula Vista, and coming soon to Imperial Beach. In addition to a world-class in-store experience offering curbside pickup and delivery, marchandash.com. Welcome back to the Cannabis Enlightened Podcast. I'm Chris Canturi, and here's more from our host, Dr. Leroy Brady.
So what I'd like you to say, just give it to me like it is.
Okay. This industry, if it actually opens up, could have a liberating effect on people. Why? Because it could be, think about it, It could be an industry on top of an industry. People talk about vertical this. No, I see this as horizontal going vertical. Why? Because everybody has already an industry, a type of industry that exists. The industries everywhere. But if you think about it, this is something that is laying horizontally as cannabis. And on top of that, think about Legos. You have the flat Lego, cannabis, and then you have the other stuff that's laying on top of that horizontal Lego that you're laying on top, and you have what? I mean, think about it. You have the cultivation piece that is very unique to what? To cannabis. The manufacturing, which is very unique to what? To cannabis. And then in manufacturing, you have a multitude of things. You have the people who will make and purify and clean up the flowers for, smoking, or to make juices, or to make candy, or whatever. I mean, people who would make edibles or food or whatever it is that they're going to make. And then you have
Good point. Good
yes.
point. So you because this was personal to you with respect to your son, and because I consider you to be an open-minded person, you were looking at what was happening in society. You decided, or you saw the need for something to be written up and taught in the college
Not yet.
arena.
At the time, not yet. At the time, that was not even there yet. I was still thinking about it.
Okay.
So then it became legal. And then I started to talk to some of my buddies about, and I also have to tell you that in a selfish way, I was looking to come up with a class or a program that would be a little different, something that would be a change. I want you to understand this. I wrote ideas. Okay, I didn't write the course in itself. I want you to understand that. I wrote a course has multitude of components when it comes down to curriculum. I want you to understand that. I wrote the elements, and then to write a course, it's more convoluted than you think. You have to have a book, and some people grab a book and they go by the index, and that is the course. Somebody found a book that it was very similar to the topics that I wanted to talk. But if you were actually look at the index and about the course outline of your book, of the class that you're teaching, it's almost 90% different now to what it is, to what you're teaching.
Exactly.
Because you're teaching right now, basically what we talked about that we wanted to do. We needed to get the class out, okay? That's what we needed.
So from that original idea, we've come to where we are now in terms of the class, the Business of Cannabis.
That's correct.
And so it was the framework that you helped build that together in the beginning, you and I took that framework, and we went to we did prep for the class by going to a number of different conferences from San Jose to Louisiana. And I remember in Louisiana was the place, I'm sure you remember, where I lost my iPhone and my wallet and my credit cards and everything. And I was going from the conference to the hotel, then back again. And finally, someone found my iPhone. And come to find out, when he found it, when I found him, he was looking for me.
But think about it. Before the faculty person put it on the system curriculum using the book that she used, I was the co-author of it. We couldn't find a book that had everything I wanted. We had to settle. Understand the word settle is not my game, but here were the topics I gave that I wanted to cover. And that was never gonna fly, but we had to deal with it. This is what I wanted: banking in the business of cannabis, marketing, graphic design, labeling, label making, manufacturing. Notice that none of this stuff is flower touching, okay?
Exactly.
Clothing, making clothing, fabric making. And I'll get to it, okay? These were the ideas that I had. This was the crazy.
Right.
And understand this paper is old, and this is all the crap that this is the stuff I wrote when I was literally looking at these things, and then my little notes on the side. It was amazing that I actually found the paper, but I save everything in folders and folders. And when you told me you were going to do this, I found it.
I will testify to the fact that you can find any document that you've ever written in your entire life. I even think you probably have your report second grade.
My what?
And if you don't,
I have my kindergarten report cards.
there you go. I was going to say, if you don't have them, I believe you know exactly what grade you got in each course.
I have them all.
I would.
I have kinder to now, okay?
Okay, I testify to the fact that Rose keeps almost everything because she never knows when she's going to need it. And what's interesting is that from the information that you have about the class, when we were doing the prep, as I said, to try to find out, and we couldn't, as you were saying, we couldn't find a book that would give us enough information. We had to. Go ahead.
It was not a book. By the time I asked you to offer the class, and let me go, we have a 2-year gap in here. So between 2006, when it became legal, and I have my list, I have literally 40 items that I wanted to cover in the class. Well, that class would have never happened, okay? We had banking, we had marketing. I even had interior design for the cannabis dispensary. Amazingly enough, that was buried in my list. Spencer told me that the cannabis people needed something like that. And I just looked at that now. This document is in 2006. So with that said.
Yeah, and from 2006 to the time, from 2006 to the time that we started to do the research, going to conferences, things had changed. And from that time to the time I actually did the first class, a whole bunch had changed.
But think about it. You didn't do the class till 2000. Let's see, I have it in here because I didn't want to sound like I didn't have a clue. So the class didn't get approved, okay, till 2000. Actually, the class didn't get put in the system till 2018. Shayna put it in the system in 18, based on a book that we found that had some items.
Right.
So with that said, we only had 5 items that we could actually address in that book. And I said, well, this class is not going to make it, but I needed to find a teacher. And I asked her, you said you would do it. We had a year to prep. And then based on that, we had 1 year to find sources. We knew there was no book, but we had to settle.
How difficult, Rose, was it to get it approved?
Oh, well, between 2018 to 2019 and a half was special. First of all, I had to make sure that I inform, you have to understand a dean cannot write a course, okay?
Right, you have to get faculty rights courses, okay.
She had to write it, and she was a good sport. So every campus, and so as the co-author, I could actually make the comments. No, we're not going to bring flowers to the campus. Understand that if we were going to talk, even remotely, about cultivating or any flower touching things, a student on financial aid could not take the class.
Okay.
Okay, so we had to make sure that if it was going to be talked about, it was going to be very briefly. If you were to look at the formal outline of records, there's very little on that. The only thing we talk about it is on the history of it, and the history of cannabis is there.
So right. So you had to maneuver through and jump over, I guess, a lot of hurdles in order to make sure that it would get approved. Okay, so it got approved. How difficult was it to find a faculty that would teach the course?
Well, if it wasn't that, let me be honest, it wasn't that it was difficult. It was difficult to find somebody who would teach it the way I wanted it.
Okay.
I could find anyone out there, that part-time person that wanted to get the foot on the door, that would grab a book and would lecture. Okay, I could get that. I don't want that. I didn't want that. I wanted to have somebody who would have an open mind, that would do some research, and that would spend the time and the effort, that would be able to get the investment, the time investment to bring in the people that you have brought in. It's a big difference between do what we call a chalk and talk, that somebody who is able to bring the people that you have been, I mean, the time that it takes, you know, there was a day, and I don't know if you remember this, the first time that we went to Marsh and Ash, I knew very clearly, deep down, we were going to go there because the people in labor, in particular, Peter Sishi, at the time, he was one of our board of trustees, and he wanted the union to come in and have something to do with Marsh and Ash, and have, he was perhaps in a partnership with Mr. Peace, Brett's father. I knew why I was going there. I was not going to go there simply because I wanted to do an apprenticeship. I mean, I was going to go there because I needed to have an understanding of that cannabis business, because that class was coming.
I think it goes without saying that when we visited March and Ash, we were sold almost immediately that this was pretty much the Cadillac of the industry. They were doing things right.
Correct.
And they kept doing things right, even to the extent that they wanted to have an impact on the class, not dictating what was said,
no,
or what was done. That was not their case, but they stepped up and they said, look, if you need textbooks, whatever textbook or books you're going to need, we will buy them. And I said,
this was
remember,
prior to that, though, Leroy. That was literally almost 6 months prior to even that. My motive to go to that visit at that time was because we got access to visit that place. And where I mean, this is me, where this woman is going to get access to a dispensary to take a look at it, so I could then finalize some of the pieces of that class. Because that was before the class.
And if you don't mind me saying, I think I'd said many times that the March and Ash dispensary was like the Nordstroms of the cannabis industry.
I call it the Tiffany's. I stepped them
the
up.
Tiffany's. You took it up to the Tiffany's. Okay.
But that was basically it. And you have to understand that, you know, anybody, and I would say this, anyone can teach anything if they really want to. Now, doing it right and doing what, you know, you have to have a vision to do something. And my vision for that class was very unique. And, you know, you more than anybody else, and you know that this has been a thing of mine for decades. I have this thing for the underdog. And the underdog has to be helped to some degree. And we happen to have a lot of students who fit that category. And I'm saying this in a good way. You know, you have had students, and I have seen them peripherally. And I will mention some names that I hope that you can edit. But remember when we did ETP?
Yes.
And we had
excellence through pride.
Remember that student, and let's not mention her name, that couldn't even turn on the computer, and then what happened? She blossomed.
Yes, she did. She blossomed to the point where she was, I think she was hired by one of the universities or colleges to maintain their computer system. Absolutely.
And then, you know, we had people like that. And then, so this is what I'm saying. There are people like that out there that could have benefited, from this class. A single class sparked that little light behind your head. And they could say, you know, gee, I don't need to go get that, you know, doctorate in whatever the heck it is that my mom wanted me to get, but I could do perhaps a bookkeeping program, that I could go work for a company like Marsh and Ash.
You know, what you're bringing forth though, Rose, is the fact that not only is there more to the cannabis industry than cultivation and dispensary, but that the cannabis industry is like any other business. It has to have bookkeepers.
And that's what I talked to you about, that Lego thing, is that, my grandson loves to play with Legos, and he uses that little platform thing, and he puts that little stuff on top. That's like cannabis. I mean, it's a platform, it's horizontal, that you can then from there launch a vertical system that has a multitude of buildings and a multitude of industries. And that's how I saw it.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying is that teaching this Business of Cannabis class, in your vision, it should not be taught as a lecture, but as an experience.
That's right.
And in my estimation, that's what we're doing right now. We're teaching the business of cannabis as an experience, as we have people come in and talk about what they are actually doing in the cannabis space.
Right. Or the potential things. I mean, think about this. I mean, when I sat with my friend in Michigan and I was talking about it, it was just a conversation and ideas, right?
Okay. So this podcast has really helped us to start things off, Rose, because I didn't want to start talking about all the wonderful things that occurred and is occurring, because the class is still being taught in this business of cannabis, without giving our listening audience, some background as to how it started, where it came from. It just didn't just appear out of nowhere. There's some hard work and determination that went into this, and from your standpoint, a personal desire to get more information out concerning cannabis and what it can do for an individual in terms of health-wise. And also that we partnered, as we started this, we partnered with a company that is doing very well in the cannabis space. So all the pieces were put in place to help us to be able to teach this course in a very effective manner.
Correct. And I want to leave you and the podcast with this idea. This class that is a small class is the beginning. Think about this to be the engine of a train. There's a multitude of modules that are part of this. I mean, most people do not think like this when it comes down to this industry. But all these little pieces that you have addressed in that class can be exploded. Think about exploding something, expanding something. One piece that it has never been addressed in your class, that it was something that I wanted to, but we couldn't do. Think about the information security, the information technology that these companies are going to need at some point, one way or another.
Well, I'm going to make you smile in that topic will be addressed as part of this. There you go. As part of the podcast, we will talk about internet, IT security, how the internet, what part the internet plays in the cannabis space. So, and I'm going to be coming back to you. I'm going to rely on you and people like you to bring that out so that our audience can see the interface, as you're talking about, the interface of cannabis and other parts of other industries, that it's not just a standalone.
Perfect.
One of the topics that I'm going to talk about is that there's more to cannabis than THC. So there's more to the cannabis business than THC,
Perfect.
So listen, I'm thank you very much, Rose. You've been a very gracious speaker. Appreciate your time. I know that you're a very busy person, and the background that you've given us really helps us to get started. So thank you very much. We appreciate your help.
Anytime.
Okay, be good. Take care.
If you'd like to hear more Cannabis Enlightened with Dr. Leroy, be sure to visit us online at cannabisenlightened.com and subscribe wherever you download your podcasts. Cannabis Enlightened is produced in San Diego, California, and presented by March and Ash at marchandash.com. On behalf of Dr. Leroy, I'm Chris Cantori, and thank you for listening.
American democracy's good, but we can make it better. The National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers includes organizations across the country who are working right now to build a better democracy by opening primaries, implementing safe, secure voting systems, reducing corruption, and increasing transparency. Listen to our weekly podcast, How to Win Friends and Save the Republic, to hear updates from the latest movements in the democracy reform space. Subscribe and learn more about us at nonpartisanreformers.org.